Okay, so this video is about, replacing tubes or repairing tubes, right? So if you get a flat, what should you do? Should you patch it or should you replace the tube with a brand new fresh tube that's going to be perfect? And it's funny because, I went through this, question myself for a long time. And I replaced so many tubes when I was young. I was like, man, I replaced a lot of tubes. And I had the choice of patching them. And, in my mind, I thought that, hey, a brand new fresh tube has to be better. And I was wrong. As I got a little bit older, I started experimenting with patches. And it's funny because I started experimenting with them only when the glueless patches came in. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever used a glue patch. I'm not sure. I might have when I was really young, but I don't think so. But I got these Park glueless patches, and I remember just putting one on a tube, and boom, it took care of it. And I used to get a lot of flats when I was young because I used to ride a lot of miles. I mean, I used to ride like crazy. And, so especially on the road bike, the road bike was just absurd because I used to ride a road bike like a mountain biker, right? So I would just go through crazy stuff constantly. I'm like a knucklehead. I'm still like a mountain biker. But anyway, so I used to get flats constantly, especially on the rear wheel, because you sit on the back and lift up the front. If you have an obstacle, you can lift up the front pretty well. Avoiding it on the rear is a little more problematic. You have to be really cool, smooth, pushing the saddle to the side to round it out or round an obstacle. In many cases, especially when I was young, I didn't know how to do that. So I would get a lot more flats on the back. So, I remember using a glueless patch kit or just a glueless patch, a Park glueless patch, which I really love. And it worked perfectly. And then, I got another flat. I'm like, oh my God, these things might not, probably don't work. And I checked, I was like, this thing works. And then it just got another flat. So I just put another patch on. And it was funny because I mean, I had one tube, it was like the Frankenstein tube. I must have had so many, I mean, at least like 7 patches on the thing. It was like everything was patched. But the cool thing is the patches didn't leak. They just didn't leak ever. They were great. So I had these patches, many patches, because I was getting flats in different places. It wasn't the patch that was the problem. So like, I mean, I logically conclude, I was like, I mean, this is it. I'm just using these patches forever. Because I mean, you can get like like I think 6 patches for a few bucks back then. They're probably $5 now, like 6 patches for $5 now. They used to be more, and they used to be less than $5. But like a tube would cost $5 back then. So it's like, okay, you can go through, I think it was 8, honestly, back then. Now I think it's 6. So you can go through the equivalent of 8 tubes. It's like $40 versus $5. It's crazy. You got to go with the patches. However, right? However, there are a couple exceptions. So always, it's better for the environment. Just patch your tubes. Really, it's so easy. If you don't see the leak, put it in some water. You'll find the leak easily. It'll bubble up. Wait till it dries. Use a towel, dry it off. Just put the patch on, and you're done. However, there's a couple issues, right? Number one is right around the valve stem, right? And around the valve stem is a very unlikely place to get a flat because if you look at your tubes, they're generally the same thickness all the way around, except for the valve stem, super thick. But I had one rip at the valve stem and I tried to patch it and I just could not. Essentially, you need extra meat around that valve stem because there's so much weight on the stem and a patch is not going to hold. It just, for me, it didn't work. So that's one place. There's another time I tried a patch. It's funny. I mean, I fell in love with patches. So I was like, let's patch everything, right? I'm going to use these tubes for the rest of my life, right? I mean, I had these crazy tubes. People look at them like, who has tubes like this? Who gets that many flats? I mean, I rode a lot, and I didn't replace my tires as often as I should have, and that's why you get flats on the backside. Honestly after about 1,000 miles on a thin tire, you're gonna get flats if you don't replace them. But when you get a slit, like a cut, which happens once in a blue moon, I honestly, to my recollection, I think that's only happened to me a couple times, over like 30 years of riding. So it's a very infrequent event to get like just a cut. And I remember looking at it, I'm like, maybe I can patch this. There's no way. I mean, you need a really large size patch because between one patch and the second patch, there's going to be a slight seam, and the air pressure should definitely like break that seam easily. If it's one patch, there's no seam. So I think when you have a cut, it's over. Forget the patching thing. You need a tube. And around the valve stem, I think the valve stem's really, really unlikely. I don't know how that happened the one time. And let me tell you the funniest part of the story, right? I remember buying a tube one time because I need to replace a tube, and the tube was defective. It's like crazy stuff that, it was a Schrader tube. And honestly, I've gotten Presta tubes that are defective all the time. But that's when I was older, so I didn't really care. But when I was young, like, $5 was a big deal. I was broke, college kid for my whole life. And I got this one that was defective. I'm like, oh my God, this is my $5. And with a patch kit, you don't have to worry about any of that nonsense, defective tubes. Because I mean, only an idiot would like return a cheap tube, and I wasn't that kind of an idiot at that time. So I just swallowed the $5 loss. Ooh, oh my God. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.